had to make $10,000 a month online fast with no audience, no email list, and no product, this is exactly what I would do. And no, it's not launching a course, it's definitely not becoming an influencer, and it's not posting content every single day hoping someone finds you. This, what I'm about to share with you, is the most direct and high leverage way to get to $10,000 as fast as possible. Hey, if you're new here, my name is Jennifer Waters. I actually hit my first $1 million in my brick and mortar business back when I was 23 years old. And then after that, I focused on my fight career. I started going all in on kickboxing and MMA, ultimately landed a pro fight contract deal for a feeder organization to the UFC. But when I hit 30 years old, COVID happened. And so at that point, it was a real fork in the road moment for me. I just adopted my son, who was 3.5 at the time. And I decided to pivot away from a fight career and focus all in on online, helping other people that were just like myself be able to generate revenue through their businesses by implementing a certain set of skills that I taught them. And so today, what I want to do is show you how I created my own online agency so that you can learn the lessons that I had to go through, you can avoid the mistakes that I did, and ultimately you can get to $10,000 super fast. So if you're just getting started in this video is for you. And by the way, if you find any of the content here that I give to you helpful at all, do me a favor, hit the like button, tap subscribe. It really goes a long way to making sure that this message can get out to other people. And as a thank you for that, I'll make sure that I try to reply to every single comment that I get personally. So the first thing that I had to do and that I had to learn when I started going, okay, how do I generate money online in addition to the real world where all of my money had been generated previously, is I had to think about, well, I can't just go talk to people like I would do in real life. Then it dawned on me that, yeah, you just have to talk to people online. And so the first thing that I did is I went, how do I deploy these skills that I learned in the physical space into a virtual space? What that ultimately meant is that I spent a lot of time doing networking online, reaching out to contacts that I already knew from the Facebook groups that I was already in. This particularly was important because I already had a defined niche. You see, the first business that I ever took to $1 million a year was my martial arts business. My dad actually started it back in 1982. By the time I was 18 years old, it just wasn't doing so great. We were going to shut it down. But then we pivoted and we went all in on learning marketing, on learning business systems. We took that business from doing a few $1,000s a month to doing over $1 million a year. That's how I hit my first million at 23, was that whole entire process of taking a real brick and mortar store and going online. And I did that through networking. I did it by getting out of the four walls of my school and actually going out on the streets and talking with people, generating business. And so I wanted to apply that same philosophy for my online business because now I was helping other martial arts schools be able to do the exact same thing. So I was already in Facebook groups that had to do with martial arts. I was already connected with people that were struggling with the same thing that we had already struggled with. And in that moment, it was COVID. So everybody was struggling with how to keep their brick and mortar business open. So how does this apply to you? Maybe you're not in any Facebook groups. I think the first thing that you need to do is you need to look at what are the things that actually interest me, that I could spend hours thinking about, talking about, doing. And then also thinking, what's my background? What expertise or skill set do I come to the table with? For me, I was fortunate to be going out based on this business that I had already built and then making new connections. So this was a secondary business for me as far as in the online space. But if I had to start from scratch with absolutely no connections, I would think about, what is it that I like doing? Like another hobby of mine is horseback riding and horses. So if that was something that really interested me, I would first find out, do I have a network of people where they need something related to horses because it interests me? And what does that network actually need? So it's not only your network, it's what do they need? If your network matches a high level of need, then you can serve that network. If your network doesn't have a need, then maybe you're not asking the right questions, such as, what does my network struggle with? How can I help my network? If you come at it from that standpoint, you're probably going to find at least 5 to 10 people that could become your first customers. And that's what I did. I found 10 people that became my first customers because of the network of people that I was around and because of the DMs that I sent out. Next question might be, well, how many DMs did you send out? Hundreds of DMs. I don't know the exact number. I didn't document it back then. I didn't think I was going to be making YouTube videos 5 years later about what I did, but I do know that it was an everyday thing where I was commenting, engaging with people in those Facebook groups, and then I was in turn starting a conversation with them through the DMs. And those conversations, I did not come straight out and be like, oh, well, I can help you with that. It's only going to cost you X amount of dollars. I didn't do that at all. What I did is I found out what they were struggling with, gave them some value, and then ultimately I engaged in a conversation that got us to a phone call. And from that phone call, it got us to a Zoom call. And from that Zoom call, it got us to a close. This method worked really, really well for me. Obviously, I had a sales background already. I'd been doing that for quite a while. If you don't have any skill sets around sales, make sure you stay until the end because I'm going to talk about sales specifically and some of the nuances that I learned from doing online sales versus doing in-person sales, even some things that I had to learn that was different that could probably help you as well. The second step that I would encourage you to do is once you've figured out what your network is, what their need is, and if you can match the two, the next thing that really catapulted me even past 10K onwards up to 150K a month is that I started a value-driven community. You see, in particular in my niche, there was not a lot of Facebook groups that were out there giving free value and content. Since then, there's been a lot more Facebook groups that popped up in my niche, which is quite interesting. And I think that that's the greatest form of flattery, right? Is for other people to model what you've done. But with that Facebook group in particular, I just took all the value that I could put into it, into that group. And I just would go every single week with the idea that I'm going to be uploading value with videos. So I would go live in the Facebook group. I would make sure that I would publicize that I was going live. And I was talking about the most urgent things that my network needed help with. Not the things necessarily that I loved. And it definitely felt like it was super repetitive. But it didn't matter because I always had new people wanting to join the group. And I always had new people coming in looking at older videos that I had produced. Now, for you, if you're trying to do this, I would definitely go on and I would start with that network and I would say, even to the people who you don't get onto phone calls and you don't get onto, Zoom calls for the close, say, hey, I'm actually starting this free group. I would love to have you join. I'm dropping tons of value here. Because the thing that you've got to get around is you got to get around skepticism. And people are not going to trust you, especially now. I think there's way more of a trust recession, as it's been coined, than anything that happened in 2020. There were so many people back in 2020, 2021, 2022 who were just going and achieving great results, amazing results online. But there was also some other people who were doing really sketchy things. And I remember being in those masterminds and being in those programs. They didn't work or they were super scammy. My experience, knowing what I know, is that you're going to get that. Not every investment that you make is going to always have a return. Some of them are going to be horrible investments, but what you're hoping for is by investing in yourself that you're going to find the one that's actually going to work and help you make back that money and make back more money. And that's what a lot of the masterminds and programs that I did join that did work out did for me. So when it comes down to going, how do I get past that skepticism? Value first strategy is going to work the best. So giving away free value, just like what I'm doing here with you guys today. You don't know me from, as we would say in the South, from Adam's house cat. So I'm just giving you a lot of value here today. I'm telling you what I did so that you could do this in your own niche and hopefully not make some of the same mistakes that I made and do a lot better because I'm giving you free advice. It's the same exact thing, and you want to do this in your Facebook group. Now, if you're young and you're sitting there going, I don't have any experience, I don't have any life advice, my best advice for you is to partner or pair along with someone who's been there and done that, and then you reflect their journey. For example, when I was really getting going with the martial arts business, I was young. I mean, I was 18, 19, 20 years old, and I was trying to build that business to $1 million a year. My dad had been doing this for 20 something years. Now, he had a full-time construction job as well, so he didn't really get to focus on the business. He was putting food on the table, keeping a roof over our heads, and then had this side business. And it was really challenging to do that in the brick and mortar space. Like, brick and mortar is totally different than the online space. There's a lot of other obstacles that you have to hop through that you don't have to in the online space. So I would lean a lot on his past experience, and I would even utilize his experience and his credibility that he had in my conversations, because he had street cred. He'd been around. If you don't have somebody like that you can lean on, my first suggestion to you is go find somebody in your niche. For example, let's say that you're in the chiropractic niche. Go start getting your back cracked and go to a chiropractor, somebody who's got a bustling business. It feels like it's very streamlined, and you're going to want to say, hey, can I interview you? And I really want to provide value. I'm starting a marketing agency, and I want to be able to provide value. Or another way that you could do this is you could even work out a deal where potentially you're going to have them have some sort of upside in your deal. Maybe you get them on as a coach. They come in one time a week and they offer advice, or maybe you do it as a podcast format where you're going to have them on not every single week because you're going to provide value, but every other week or once a month. You're going to bring them in. They're going to be on the podcast with you. You're going to ask them questions. You're going to give some value to other chiropractors that may not know the things that this successful person does. So you've got, like, from the very low side of things, I'm just asking someone to give value, or I'm giving them an upside of the business, to I'm full on partnering. Like, I'm going in and I'm going to do some sort of partnership or a rev share or something like that, so that I can get access to someone who's been there and done that. You see, the hardest thing if you're trying to go into the online marketing space is that online marketing is a commodity. I mean, literally, someone with zero experience could go on YouTube and figure out how to run their own social media advertisements. And a lot of people are doing this. They're taking it in-house. So the biggest thing that you have to do if you're doing an online service business like marketing is you're going to have to get that person to go, yeah, but I don't know everything. And they also provide me some ancillary benefits. Like, I get to join this free group and I get this advice from someone who's been there and done that. And I think that that's a really huge upside for somebody if you can come at it from, not only do we do marketing, but we have expertise. We have business expertise that's going to help you grow and scale. That's what worked really well for me. And I've seen it work really well for other people also. And so that's what I would say is, like, lead with value, build a community inside of that Facebook group, or you could do it with IG. Wherever your ideal client lives is where you should be. So for me, my ideal client was 40 years old and older. They're on Facebook. They're not on IG. Maybe your ideal client's younger. You should probably be on IG. And so that's where I wanted to build that value and have that community. Now, I know you stuck around. And again, if you're getting value out of this, let me know in the comments, like, what's been the most valuable thing for you so far? I would love to hear. Just let me know in the comments. But we're going to talk about one-to-one sales and some of the mistakes that I made and some of the things that I would really advise you to stay away from. And then the things that worked really well for me in online sales. So some of the mistakes that I made is because I had all this experience of in-person sales, I thought it was going to be the exact same way online. And it was to a certain degree, but the biggest challenge that I had is that I was used to doing a demo of the product that we were selling, which was martial arts, right? So, we would work with the kid. We would have the kid have a great experience. They would be able to visibly see that their child was enjoying it, and not only enjoying the product, that they were also making some changes to their behavior. Like, we were helping them with focus, and then we were helping them with confidence. So then I had to correlate, how do I get someone to see change immediately on a demo? The reality is that you can't. Like, they can't see immediate change in their business like what I was doing here. Like, it was almost like the old days. My dad used to sell vacuum cleaners. And so he was telling me that sometimes they would, like, dump dirt on the floor and they would vacuum it up just to do a product demonstration. There is no product demo. So how do you create a product demo so someone truly believes that you can solve their problem? The easiest way that I was able to demonstrate a product demo was from my own past experience. Again, if you have no past experience, lean on that other person that is going to be that partner for you. So what did that person do in their business that was crucial and essential that revolves around the service that you're offering? Maybe you're not doing online marketing agency. Maybe you have an AI business. And so what did that person who has this experience, what did they do in their business as soon as you implemented AI that they were able to see results? So yes, it's testimonial driven. If you don't have testimonials because no one's used your product before, then what you've got to do is you've got to start saying, imagine if this person had this AI. So instead of trying to get this person, your prospect, to think about all the things of how it's going to impact their business and setting that frame right away, the way that I like to do is I like to set the frame around other people and how they've had that experience and how my service has impacted them. It takes the pressure off of trying to psychoanalyze what that person is exactly going through. Of course, you want to dig into their pain points, figure out what they're going through. But instead of saying, my solution will work for your business, instead what I'm doing is, my solution worked for their businesses. And it allows the person to start ideating in their mind, well, if it worked for them, then it can work for me. That's been a crucial frame for me that really has worked very, very well. And hopefully I'm explaining that pretty easily. Let me know if I'm not, and I'll try to explain it maybe in a different video. The other side of this that was so important, a lesson that I learned, is that there was a lot of emotional buildup and excitement in the real world. When I was doing, an introductory and evaluation lesson, I could really get this person emotionally bought in during that time frame. And I had a very hard time transitioning over to online and getting that person emotionally bought in initially. What would end up happening is the person would say, well, I need to think about it. I've got to really talk to my spouse about it. And there's a lot of different ways to overcome those objections. And again, I can talk about this in another video if you guys want, just let me know. But the reason why I was having those objections is because the person on the other side of the camera, on the other side of the screen, was not emotionally bought in. I didn't create enough emotional presence in that sales conversation for them to conclude that they needed to make a decision, and that this decision, the decision I put in front of them, was an easy decision to make, considering if they didn't do it, they would be faced with the pain of what they'd already been dealing with. And that pain was actually something they could never get rid of just by ignoring it. So I made that very, very clear. And it also made it very, very clear that the path that was in front of them was the path to get relief from that pain. So once I started learning how to tie in those emotions, create those emotions in a 45-minute sales conversation online, as opposed to creating that emotion in the physical realm where I was actually visibly being able to create that emotion through punches, through kicks, through all kinds of things that we would do in that realm, I had to translate that to a digital realm. Once I unlocked that key, the one-to-one sales became super, super simple. It was very, very easy to scale it. I hit my first million with an online agency, doing a lot of different things, fulfillments, running their ads, and also sales. And I'm not saying you should do all those things. There's other things that I wish I would have done better, and I'll cover those in other videos. But if you like this video, make sure you check out the next video you see on the screen, because that's how I actually did make my first million.